I wanted to talk this evening about those irritating arguments and bickering that goes on with couples. And it's something that crops up time after time with those couples I work with. They're always telling me that. And on my webinars too. It's a question that comes up following that. So, you know those arguments where you disagree about things? You both, you start off by saying something and your partner disagrees. So you've got your viewpoint and they have theirs. But some couples, what happens is, because they feel that they're right, they then won't let it go. Their view is, well, I'm right and you should agree with me. I'm perfectly right. There's no problem. Of course I'm right. You must be stupid if you don't agree with me. I hear that very often. Then the other person feels quite upset because they've been put down, and their view is, well, hold on a minute, I've got a viewpoint, and no, I'm not stupid, and no, I have got an opinion, and no, you're not always right about everything. Then what happens is that it gets into a real battle, because each person wants to feel that they are right, that their viewpoint is right and the other person's wrong. And before you know it, I hear it time after time after time, that the argument escalates. And so one person feels wounded, they've been put down, and then so instead of actually saying, okay, that hurt, I'm going to hurt you back more. And so the argument gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and blows all out proportion. And then it turns into a huge blazing row. And the couple don't know what they started the argument about. When I ask them, well, what happened? What was the argument about? I don't know. It just is because we don't get validated, we don't get heard, we're not listened to, and that's where I so often see that with those couples. It is a case of actually acknowledging the other person quite often, because if we don't feel acknowledged, if we don't feel heard, what can happen is that we do feel upset. You know yourself, I'm sure, that if you feel that somebody hasn't listened to you, it feels really horrible. And I think then, because they're not heard, then they'll either lash out at the other person, or they'll keep on and on and on until they get acknowledgement. So I really feel that it's important to acknowledge. I'm not saying you have to agree with them. It is about, oh, so you really feel that strongly about that? Okay, I've got a slightly different view on that. However, we're not going to agree on everything, but I hear your point of view. It's sometimes even just checking it out and saying, okay, so you've got a view on this. Can you tell me more about it? I'm interested in what your view's about. I'd really like to hear what you have to say about that subject. You may get fobbed off, but you know what? It's better than pushing someone aside and saying, oh, you're talking rubbish, or oh, yeah. It may be that you don't agree with it, and you may end up by saying, yeah, I really hear what you're saying, and that viewpoint is a very valid one. However, I still have a different viewpoint about that. If you do that, you're more likely to stop the argument straight away. And to be honest, half the things we argue about really aren't worth it. You don't have to agree. That's the one thing I really want to say. You're never going to agree, and it is pointing out to the other person, yeah, you're right, we're not going to agree on everything, and we know that we've got different views. That's the way we are, because we're different people. But at least you're allowing that your partner, that loved one, to feel that they are valued. And I think it's so important for us to feel valued. In so many situations in this world, in our work situations, and even any place that you can think of, we don't always feel valued. We don't get treated necessarily on public transport as a valued person. We're not always treated as a valued customer in a shop, and certainly at work, I remember when I was working full time, you never ever got told you were doing a good job, or hardly ever. They'd moan about you if you didn't get it right, but it is that important. We want to feel valid. We want to feel that our viewpoint counts in this world. So I think just acknowledging it can be really, really valuable. The other thing is, I sometimes think that people should be, what I hear so often is, well, he said, she said. And then I ask them, what did that mean? Well, I don't know, but they said X, Y, Z. Well, so you didn't check it out. What do you think it might have meant? Well, I took it for X, Y, and Z. Well, okay, but are you sure? No. So when we think we've heard something, we may not be right. I know when I talk to clients, and they might tell me that they're feeling sad. Now, sad can mean an awful lot of things to different people. Sad can be, well, I woke up this morning, I felt a little bit blue, or it can mean I'm feeling really depressed. The same with the word depressed. For one person, it can mean just feeling a bit, woke up a bit, like I say, blue. For somebody else, it can mean that they've got full-blown depression. So sometimes it's worth checking out and asking someone, what does that mean for you? What does that depressed, sad, angry, upset, annoyed, happy, whatever does that mean? Because we all have different viewpoints. We all have different meanings. We only learn those meanings from our family of origin. So we start off, and if mum or dad or whoever your caregiver was, would put a meaning to a particular word or phrase, then that's what we understand the word to mean, or that phrase, or whatever it is. So we all experience things very differently in our lives and our family of origin. And so it's useful to find out, what does that mean for you? What's that about? Does it mean that, tell me more about it. Help me out to understand. I really want to understand what that means for you. I don't know if anybody wants to give me a thumbs up, or if it's making any sense to anybody, or if it's helpful. Do let me know. It'd be quite interesting to kind of hear if any of you find those kind of situations can crop up. I know it's not always easy to admit that, well, I got that wrong, or yeah, that was me. I promise you that most of these things I talk about I've probably experienced myself. I always say I'm qualified by experience, because yeah, I've probably done it myself, or I've been in a similar situation. So I think there is something very much about that I get it quite often, because I've been there and I've done it and I've experienced it. So I'm going to kind of sign off now, unless anybody wants to say anything, or please let me know if there's anything you would like me to talk about, because I'm always open to chatting on here and talking to people, and yeah, helping anyone, or approaching certain situations that you might have a struggle with or might have cropped up. If you don't want to put it in the box here, then private message me. I've got no issues with that, because I know you can remain anonymous, because I know some people feel quite, yeah, they're quite shy about saying they've got an issue with their relationship. It feels like it's quite shaming to say, well, I can't fix it, something's wrong, and I should be able to fix this myself. I don't want to tell anybody that I'm struggling with the situation. I get that, but you know, we all struggle at times. If people were really honest about how they felt, you'd find that lots of people do struggle. And I get quite sad at times when couples, one of the couple will say they don't want to come and talk to me because they don't want to air their dirty laundry in public. The thing is, if you carry on like that and you don't address the situation before it gets out of hand, then what is likely to happen is it will escalate, and once those situations get really ingrained, then it's much harder to try and fix it. And then I get people coming to me, couples coming to me, and it's the last chance saloon, and really they've emotionally left the relationship, which is so sad, because once you've left the relationship in that way, not only is it a huge financial cost, but it's such an emotional cost as well, not just to yourselves, but to your family, your children, your friends, and yeah, the financial implications, which are really ongoing. So I would say, if you have got problems, if there are things that aren't quite right, talk to each other. Please talk to each other. Don't let it get out of hand. Don't let it get to the point where it is the last chance saloon. There's too much to lose. And even if you decide you want to part, at least you can find out what it was that wasn't working. You can find out what it is that maybe you played into the situation as well as the other person. There's nothing worse than making the same mistake over and over and over again.